Hey, what's going on? This is CS146. I'm Matthew Ventures, and today we are talking about vertical slices. So the entire idea of a vertical slice is basically it builds off the sort of concept that we can break a game into pieces. And one of the ways in which that's traditionally done is we think about nouns and verbs within games. When we talk about what can a player do within a game, those are the verbs. Those are the different player affordances is another term used. And then when we think what can the player affect when they do these things, those are the nouns. So for example, if you're in a game, let's say you're in Doom, then the player, the Doom Slayer, is one of the nouns. What can the player do? They can shoot. That's one of the verbs. And then who can they shoot? They can shoot monsters. And then that's the noun. Okay, so that's a simple way to think about games and how to break it down. And essentially, when we think about games in this sense, we can diagram them out using this format, which is going to become relevant for a vertical slice in just a second. But I'm going to show you basically how I broke down this game here. This is Mario, one of the games from Assignment Zero. And what's going on here? Well, we've got a layer for collect, traverse. Sorry about that. We've got a layer for collect, traverse, and fight. So those are the three things that you could do in Mario, and of course there's more, but I simplified it down as sort of the basic, most important verbs you have within the game as the player. And then, so basically what you do is you're designing your game, you split it into the different verbs, what can they do, what are the different layers. Then what you do is you populate those layers with the nouns that will be affected by that verb. So for example, I have collect here, and I can choose the things that I can collect within the game. So you can collect the stars, the coins, and the power-up mushrooms. Okay, simple enough. Then we go to traverse. What can you traverse? Well, you can jump inside of these pipes, you could jump on blocks, and you have to jump over these gaps. Okay, so that's what traverse is. And then finally we have fight. So you've got these phallic-looking Goombas. These Koopa Troopas, right? These are like little turtle guy, and then the other turtle guy. I don't know what his name is. But the point is, you got these different monsters essentially, and you could fight each one of them. Okay, fair enough. So that is how you break down the game. You got the different slices horizontally of the game, and together they compose the game. So when you're gonna make a vertical slice, all you got to do is you take your samurai sword here, and you go, yeah, chop it down. Like that. Let me remove the fill there. Give it a thick border. Bam! That's your vertical slice. Okay? It's that simple. You just cut through the different layers to give the player who's going to play the demo of your game an idea for what it's like. So can you imagine a Mario game where you don't have the Koopa Troopas? You know, I'll just delete them. You don't have this guy, you don't have that guy. There's no gaps. You could go into pipes, but there's no gaps, so you never need to jump over the gap. There's no coins, there's no power-up mushrooms. You just jump around, you collect stars, and you avoid the Goombas. That's essentially what a vertical slice of Mario would be. You take all the different elements, and you just choose one from each kind of category. And then you can add them back in. You pop this guy in, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. And then that's a way that you could slowly expand the game based on what area needs the most help. You know, maybe the collecting's kind of boring, so you need to add some more collectibles. And then, oh, fighting's kind of boring, you need some variety of enemies. But you focus on the slice first, and then you build out with respect to the different layers. So that's the idea. Let's check out another game. So this is how do you do it, right? Nina Freeman's game. This is also Assignment Zero. There aren't a lot of levels going on here, okay? You just play with the dolls. That's pretty much it. The narrative carries the rest of the story. So, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but basically, there's not a lot going on here. You just have one layer, and this kind of game, you know, it'd be a little bit harder to prototype. Maybe you could do it in just text first, but a vertical slice here, it's pretty much the whole game, just because, you know, maybe you're not able to twist the dolls around. Maybe you just bump them in charge of each other. So I guess you know I made a mistake here, right? So you're playing with the dolls, sure, but you could twist the dolls. That could be a layer. You can bump the dolls, right? That could be a layer. And so maybe the first version of this game, you can only bump them. You can't twist them. You know, something like that. That's basically the idea. We figure out what are those verbs. If you could think of them, you know, play Well, you could play any game, right? But why don't we could split this into twist. You know, not you don't twist with the dolls, but you twist the dolls. Boom, you twist the dolls. You bump the dolls. Let's get that here. Bump the dolls. You know, and you go like that. You split it up. All right, what's going on here? So this is The Sims. In The Sims, you know, you've got these social things where you could try to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. Maybe get married, have kids. You've also got your job. You could sign up for a job, get a, you know, get a way to make some money, and then you have the design aspect where you go into your house and you buy like the cool couch, you get the cool bed, all that stuff. And so the idea would be, you know, there's tons of different jobs you could do in The Sims. What if there was only one? Let's just do one. And the job is you work at the diner. Simplify the game down to just one of each category. And you know, in the game, socially, you could make friends and get married and this and that and divorced and whatever. But what if you could just, you know, this isn't a good picture, but what if you could just make friends, right? You can't fall in love. I'll remove the heart. That's the idea, right? We just want to simplify it down, get a picture of the different social interactions, but just do one. Just do one of the social interactions. Design-wise, you know, what if you can only put a couch in your house? That's the prototype, okay? I mean, that's the vertical slice, excuse me. That's the rough idea. That's what we're doing here. All right, what's going on here? So this is Minecraft. Minecraft's great, right? Because it's right in the title what you're going to do. You're going to mine, you're going to craft. I also added fighting because I think that's also a part of Minecraft. And what can you mine? You can mine this or that. There's a ton of different resources. So the vertical slice is, you know, let's chop some of them out. What if you could only mine iron? You know, what if that's the only, well, this is silver, but what if you could only mine iron? That's the idea. And, you know, normally in the game you can make a shield and the pants and stuff, but what if you could just make swords? Ah, shit, I broke everything. What if you could just make swords, right? That's the idea. Traditionally in the game you can make all these things, but the vertical slice, you know, let's just pick one thing from the whole level, just one thing, and that's the sword. Let's just be able to make the sword, essentially. Because it's easy to make the other stuff after, right? The hard part is making sure all these layers work well together. And then, you know what, just make skeletons, something like that. And then you play this game, that's the vertical slice, and you say, you know what, we really need an enemy who doesn't have shooting abilities, because the skeleton's kind of OP, so let's add in the zombie. And you add those in based on where you need it as you grow the game. And the reason why you do this, if it's not clear, is because you might never get to the shield, you know? You might get here, and then suddenly you ran out of time, okay? But thankfully, you've got at least a little bit of every single piece. So you can get the mining, you got the crafting and the fighting. Whereas, if you did, I don't know, let's say that you did it like this. You said, let's build the mining system first. Let's make all these different things that you can mine. Well, let's say you ran out of time here, then you're in a really tough spot because you've only got mining in your game where you originally envisioned to have all these different things. So basically, this is sort of like a protection in that you get a little bit of everything. That way, even if that's all you get in the game, you could fully realize the variety of gameplay elements. What's going on here? All right, so Slither.io. You avoid the big guys, you attack the little guys. All right, simple enough, right? And there's a whole bunch of different ways you can attack people and stuff, but maybe a vertical slice is just, I don't know, maybe you can't attack the big guys. Maybe you can only attack the little guys or something like that. I think for this game you really need both. So maybe a vertical slice is just, maybe it's not networked. Maybe you're playing locally, and you know, because in a game there, you know, there's this big guy, there's that big guy, and then there's, you know, that big guy. And so the idea could be, what if in this game there's only one big guy and you just got to avoid him, and you know, maybe try to get him to hit you in the side so that he dies. That could be a way to start. And then you can add in, you know, the different aspects where you have these other players. I mean, almost all these multiplayer games start as single-player games, and that's exactly why. Especially on, you know, certain platforms like mobile, you don't necessarily, you know, you're going to make your game, it's not going to have 1 million players in day one. So what are you going to do? You're going to have a whole bunch of empty lobbies where there's no one to play with? No, you're going to make AI some simple, dumb, you know, worm that's just going to chase the person, and what that's going to do is it's going to have, you know, a little bit of the gameplay there. It's going to have a vertical slice of the gameplay so that the player can experience that even if your game isn't super popular yet, even if you don't have, you know, 3 different players playing, you could at least get one guy there, even if he's just AI. So that's the idea. You break it down like that. Alright, so if you have any trouble with this, just let us know. I understand it's a little complicated to break a game down into all these different pieces. And it's, of course, just one way to approach game development. There's a lot of different perspectives here, but I think this one's particularly good for our class because it does have that safety net of, hey, you know, if we never get time to implement the spider, well, at least we have some combat in the game with this guy and this guy. It's sort of a safety net in that sense. Alright, but let us know if we could help. Thank you so much. Good luck.